Hello, and welcome to the Utility of the Future, Priorities and Preparedness. My name is Josh Reynolds, founder and CEO of Rob Roy Consulting, and Tantalus asked us to conduct a study of the top concerns, priorities, pressures, and levels of preparedness of utilities across North America. And today, we're going to share the results of that survey with you. We conducted the study between October and December of last year. We got 116 unique responses from across all of our utilities, and it's a pretty good mix of electric cooperatives, public power, as well as a few IOUs. We got especially good representation across multiple different roles with the organization: senior leadership, metering, engineering, operations, customer service and billing, with a few folks from regulatory and business development roles as well. What that means is we've got a good, well-rounded view into the priorities and the pressures that folks are facing. Before we get into the detailed study, we'd like to share a top-line executive summary with you. Utilities that we spoke with were most concerned about cybersecurity, staffing issues, and the rise of electric vehicles and their impact on the grid. It was really interesting to us that the level of concern around EVs and their impact on the grid was basically the same level of concern around cybersecurity and staffing, which have been big issues for the industry for a while. And as you can see on screen, there are some other concerns as well. But the next thing we asked about was what utilities felt most and least prepared to deal with. And again, electric vehicles was the thing that most utilities felt the least prepared for, in addition to a whole new batch of regulations and more economic turmoil. And you can see on screen there's some other things that people wish they felt more prepared for as well. And when you compare what people are most worried about and least prepared for, electric vehicles and their impact are at the top of that list. It's also interesting that when you look at platforms that help you modernize and digitize distribution, they can help you take care of multiple priorities at the same time, which is why I think we see 50% of the utilities we spoke with said modernizing and digitizing the grid is their highest priority or one of their highest priorities. Now, 43% said it's a mid-level priority. We know it's important, but many of them felt that there was some other issue they had to address first. But then when we asked, so how prepared do you feel to modernize and digitize your distribution grid? Only 11% said, yeah, we feel totally prepared. The vast majority of people felt somewhat prepared, 72%. And what that tells us is the industry is in transition. It's on a journey toward modernization and digitization. And hopefully in the detailed results we're about to share, it'll give you a sense of where you are on your journey compared to your peers. Because the key is to prioritize the right things to fix first. So with that, let's take a closer look at the detailed results. First, we asked about top concerns. And the way you read this chart is the dark blue are the things that people are most concerned about. What you see in gold, and they're somewhat concerned about it. And what you see in gray is a little or not at all concerned. And clearly, cybersecurity, hiring and retaining staff, and preparing for electric vehicles are the top concerns. To be very precise, we asked the increased frequency and severity of cybersecurity incidents and their impact on the grid. That's the specific concern at the top. Challenges related to hiring and retaining staff with the skills you need is the second concern. And the rise of electric vehicles and their impact on the grid is the specific concern there in number 3. So it's really interesting to note that EVs, again, they're on par, one of those top 3 concerns. Now, going down to economic volatility, the increased volatility in the economic environment and its impact on the community you serve, that's that 4th concern. That and the impact of extreme weather events feel like they're out of our control. And so what can you do when times are tough economically? Well, people tend to focus on cutting costs. Extreme weather feels out of our control. So what do? Try to build the resilience of your grid, which costs money. This is the catch-22 that many utilities have felt for a long time. And that is, I know I need to prepare for the future. I know I need to prepare for a changing world, but I don't always feel like I have enough people, time, or money to do it. Now, looking lower down on the list, emerging regulations, that specific concern was new and emerging regulations and standards and requirements related to decarbonization, environmental impact, and sustainability, specifically the regulations that govern things like renewable energy and environmental impact. And it is a concern, but not as high as the others. And customer expectations, this is really about the increased expectations and changing attitudes from what your customer base is looking to get from you. And that usually has to do with reliable access to energy, not going down, not having outages in a storm, that sort of thing. So looking at all of these concerns, the other thing I want to call out is we double checked to make sure that we'd asked about everything. When you run a survey like this, you include an others category just to make sure that there isn't some other main concern lurking out there. And I'm pleased to report that there was really only one other concern. If you see rooftop solar, that was a big concern at 30%. The next highest one was 4%. And that was a very specific challenge around getting and using more data from their AMI systems. So really, these do represent the top concerns, because the next highest concern is really just a small handful of people. So if this is what people are most concerned about, then we asked, what do you feel most prepared to deal with? Again, what you see on this chart is in the dark blue, you see the things where people feel, for the most part, completely or at least somewhat prepared. What you see in gold is a little or not at all prepared. And gray were the very few individuals that said, it's not really a priority for me. If you start at the bottom, look at that. Electric vehicles and their impact on the grid are a top 3 concern, and they are at the bottom of the list for what we feel prepared for. Most of the survey respondents feel, I'm not ready. And if you move up from there, emerging regulations neck and neck as something I'm not really ready for, and they go hand in hand. Obviously, electric vehicles are in part a response to the need for more sustainable energy usage. And it just feels like a lot to prepare for. But again, don't forget, with more and more emerging regulations are more and more emerging sources of funds from state and federal governments to help you deal with that. Going up the list to economic volatility, you can see a lot of worry about that and not feeling the most prepared for it, because people don't always realize what they can do in response to an economic downturn. The temptation is just to cut costs, but you can also focus on boosting your efficiency and finding more effective ways to get things done, including using data so that you can actually deliver even better service with less effort. Hiring and retaining staff, going up the list, it's a hard thing to feel ready for because there's so many shifts in skill sets, but with the right solutions that are easy to use and intuitive, the demand on those skill sets is less. You could actually use more and more of your existing staff to use a new technology if the technology is really easy to use. And then going up to the top of the list, it's really encouraging to see more and more folks feeling more prepared to deal with extreme weather events. And it's no secret, the weather is getting wilder and weirder every year, and utilities are learning those lessons and really focusing on an environmentally resilient grid. But if you look at all this, it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to prepare for. The key, again, is to prioritize, and you want to start with the things that you're most worried about and least prepared for, which brings us to the next analysis, comparing the levels of concern with the level of preparedness. You can see the biggest gaps where we're not prepared for a big worry are around regulatory environment, the rise of electric vehicles, and the advent of rooftop solar. Those are the places where I am pretty worried and not feeling ready. And what's interesting is if you go through this exercise yourselves as a team, not just individually, but as a team, you may begin to see that people have different things they're worried about, but the same solution can take care of multiple worries at the same time. And many are beginning to realize that focusing on a platform that can modernize and digitize the grid distribution, that can help you tap more and more into the power of data, that will help you see what's happening at the edge of your grid, maybe even behind the meter. Those are ways to mitigate these risks and help you get ready for many new challenges at the same time. And that's why we see so many people making modernizing and digitizing the grid an increasingly top priority. On the left side, you see that 50% of the folks we surveyed either said it is my top priority or a really high priority. And those are the people that have made the connection between modernizing and digitizing their distribution grid and the challenges that they're facing right now. They see that as a way to deal with those challenges. Now, those 43% that say it's a medium priority, those are people that very likely are feeling like there's some other priority that's more immediate. There's a near-term pressure they've got to deal with. And look, let's be honest, we're all dealing with a lot. We're all doing the best that we can, but it takes just a little extra time and a little extra investment up front. And then you can realize you really can kill multiple birds with one stone. Now, on the right side, you see the level of preparedness. Where are people on their journey toward becoming a utility of the future? Where are they on their journey toward modernizing and digitizing the grid? And what you see is the vast majority of people in gold there at 72% are on their way. They feel somewhat prepared, but they know they've got more work to do. It's encouraging to see 11% say, no, we're pretty much ready. We're pretty much ready. We're making the efforts. We're making the changes. And you see roughly an equal amount saying, I'm a little prepared. I've got farther to go. But it's wonderful to see the vast majority, 72%, saying we're on our way. We're somewhat ready, but there's more work to do. And we recognize that. So the question is, where are you on your journey? What are the near-term pressures that feel the greatest to you? What do you feel the most ready for? And how can you prioritize your journey intelligently? These are the closing recommendations. What the numbers suggest to us is you want to prioritize the biggest concerns that you have that you feel least prepared for. And it is critical that you have that conversation as a team, not just in individual departments or silos. You want to look for solutions that are going to help you address multiple priorities at the same time. And we encourage you to share best practices and lessons learned with your peers. One of the great things about this industry is how collaborative it is. Everyone's serving their local communities. It's a shared purpose across different communities, and we can all serve our local communities even better if we learn from each other. One of the biggest lessons learned is the time to prepare for the next wave of change is now, because the next wave of change is already here. EV adoption is already on the rise across multiple communities across North America. You see the rise of new regulations, new standards, new requirements cropping up federally and locally everywhere, along with new sources of funding to address those mandates. And so the utility of the future is one that can use data and insights to more effectively address multiple challenges at the same time. For more guidance and insights, we encourage you to visit the articles page at Tantalus.com or to start a conversation and see how you could accelerate your own journey to becoming the utility of the future. Email tantalusinfo@tantalus.com. That concludes our study today. I want to thank you for your time and attention and wish you all the very best of luck in serving the communities that count on you. Thank you.